Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my channel, Thrive, Don't Survive. We have a very, very special guest today. Julie, please introduce yourself.
Hi, thank you so much for having me, Veronica. My name is Julie DeLuca Collins, and I am a business strategist, TEDx speaker, author, but more importantly, a tiny habits coach. And I am excited to have our conversation today.
I love that. That is a very accomplishment background, like accomplished background. I'm very excited to talk to you and that everyone's going to be able to hear your story and how you became, for example, a tech talk. I'm very interested to hear about the TEDx speaker experience. But first, give us a little bit about who you are, your background, how you became who you are today.
Well, I will tell you that once upon a time, like many people, I started just kind of going through the motions, right? You go to school, then you get a career and you start, and then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I don't like this. And I started with teaching and I did like it, but it wasn't enough. And I knew that I wanted more. So then I entered working in the other side of education and really partnering with parents and school districts. And I started working for a national company. I started to climb through the ranks of that company and eventually I moved to another company, and at that point, I was at the executive level, and I'd been doing some of the work and training others, also helping the company grow in business, and also setting up programs around the country. I really loved what I was doing, and I did some personal development and really loved being able to grow as a person, right? And really working on myself. And I thought, maybe someday I will do something like this. I don't know, right? And eventually I got my coaching certification, and then I got a couple coaching certifications, but I was still working for the company that I worked for
Mhm.
until I would say in 2019, 2020, then I became a yoga teacher and I thought, well, maybe I need to start thinking of someday being sooner. And still did not take the plunge because I think that as many individuals, right, we think, oh, can I do that? Should I do that? And we kind of second guess ourselves.
Yeah.
And of course, the universe is funny. It kind of gave me like a little kick in the pants that I needed. In 2020, the company that I worked for was hit very hard
Mm.
because of the pandemic. And I was then offered a separation package. And at that point, I was part of the senior C-level executives. And I thought, wow, okay, this is my chance because no other place or time will I be able to then decide to go from that position to actually growing my own business. So I started, and my original intent was to help individuals. Well, it's always been to go confidently, right? Which is the name of my company, Go Confidently Services. But originally, my intent was to help women specifically who were in that corporate environment that wanted to move up to a more senior or executive position, being that I've had that experience and that I loved working in leadership programs. And I still today do some of that work. But what started to happen is that as I started coaching individuals, women would come to me and say, hey, I've been building a business. I don't know how. How do I do this? How do I do that? And I started to walk people through the process of building a sustainable, successful business. And this is predominantly what I do as a business strategist is I help individuals be able to build a business, create consistent income, and make an impact in the lives of others. And it really is something that I'm incredibly passionate about. It's something that I feel has definitely been a calling. And every day I know that the work that I am doing is because it is creating the just the life that somebody, has desired but didn't know what was the roadmap or the steps to get to that point. So I love to be able to help them get there.
That's very interesting, and that's so popular today. Like I have my own business coach, right?
Mhm.
And it's hard because I feel like not everyone needs the same things, and what
Mhm.
worked for somebody doesn't necessarily works for everyone, which is kind of
Yeah.
like the coaching theme, right? Like
Hmm.
everyone is, yes, I went through my journey of health and now I'm a life coach, and that's what I
Right.
want to give to other people, but it's so important to just personalize. So how would you say that your program is different from other business coaches that
Yeah.
like we say, they sell smoke, which is like, you're gonna make $10,000 a month right away.
Yeah.
I'm gonna teach you all this stuff. And then you go in it and it's like, it's not that easy. You do everything that they tell you and it doesn't work. So how would you answer
Yeah.
it?
Here's a little bit of what I see. And by the way, I think that I've been on the other side, right? There's coaches like, oh, join my program. And I'm like, yay, I'll do that. And like you said, right, it's not necessarily the outcome that you wanted. One of the things that for me really set me apart is one, I come with the teacher mentality, the teacher background, and I know that you can create one class, one program, but it has to be individualized to the learner. It has to be individualized to the person. So
Yeah,
I'm very good at tailoring, right, the overall concepts to the individual learning styles and understanding that the person working with me has. Number one. Number two, one of the reasons I became a certified tiny habits coach is because habits are really the keystone to being able to achieve the things that you want in life.
very
Your
true.
habits will get you the results that you have in life. If you have bad habits, you'll have bad results in life. The same thing works the other way. So for me, I know that, so much so that that's why I wrote my book, Confident You, because simple habits lead you to the life that you've imagined. And it doesn't have to be really complicated. So, as a tiny habit certified coach, I help my clients create the consistent action that gets them traction in their business. Anybody can say, oh, these are the steps to follow, or watch this, or use this program. But if you don't do the work when you don't feel like it, right? Then you're not moving ahead. So, one of the things that I teach my clients is also how to stay consistent, do the work in your business, focus on what matters as well, because as business owners, we're not always going to feel happy. We're going to have life happen. We're going to have things that we didn't expect. But being able to still run your business as a business and do it in a way that it's automated, right? Because habits are automations that we all have. So that's a little bit of what sets me apart from a lot of the other business coaches. I mean, I come with a background of successful corporate um, experience in which I helped the company that I worked for move to expanding nationally, being able to then have multi-million dollar streams of income. But the reality is that when you're doing the work yourself and you're just starting out, it becomes very overwhelming. What do I do first, second, third? How do I do every day? How do I stay consistent? So I break it down into small, manageable steps that help the individuals feel good, feel like they're being successful, but most of all, see the results by building their confidence and making an impact in the world.
I love that. And why did you choose confidence as your theme? Like, were you in a place
Yeah.
before and you changed, or how
Such
did
a good question, Veronica. I have to tell you that as a firstborn, right? I'm the oldest and I'm always very outspoken. I've always had a level of confidence. However, confidence is not a feeling that we all have. And I wanted to normalize for others that we don't always feel it. Now, my dad, he told me what, he shared the quote by Henry David Thoreau: go confidently in the direction of your dreams, live the life you have imagined. And for many years, that quote has been that mantra in my life that has helped me go confidently. And sometimes I don't feel it, but I go, right? And that's really why my business is called Go Confidently Services, my book, Confident You, my podcast, Casa de Confidence. And the
Mhm.
confidence theme goes overall through everything that I do. But most importantly, as a tiny habits coach, and again, I got certified with BJ Fogg, who is the Dr. BJ Fogg, who is the founder of the Behavior Lab at Stanford University. He has studied behavior design and habits for many, many years. Many of the habit books that are out there, Atomic Habits or The Power of Habit, they're all based on his research.
Yeah,
One of the things that Dr. Fogg says is that having the right habits is what creates confidence.
correct.
Going in that direction, moving forward, you don't have the confidence. but it creates evidence. Every time you show up, you're creating evidence that, hey, I can do it. I'm getting better. I know how now, right? And that's what creates that confidence. So for me, again, the habits, the processes, having these consistent actions are the ones that help us build a confidence even when we don't feel like it.
Yes, that is so true. I can relate to that. I used to be very messy and like not the best roommate when I used to be a roommate and all these things. And little by little, when I started my certification, I started doing my non-negotiables, I call them.
Yeah.
And so those are my little habits. And I do them every day before I can help anybody else with anything else or
Yeah.
before I do anything else for anything. And that's how I became way more confident because I used to not be
Mhm.
very confident. I used to be an immigrant and, always think that everyone else had it
Yeah.
better than me and like all these
Right.
things. And then I started creating what I wanted. So yes, I didn't know
Mhm.
that doctor, but I actually use
Yeah,
use
that's
that.
exactly it. We don't know what we don't know, but these are proven concepts that we can leverage. And I highly recommend Dr. Fogg has a book called Tiny Habits, named, and that's what the Academy for Tiny Habits is named after. So I encourage everyone to check it out.
Awesome. Yes, I will definitely read. So what are some tiny habits that you do that make you feel more confident?
Okay, so I can unpack a lot of different tiny habits that I love. I will tell you the first tiny habit that I often talk about is that mindset. And the mindset begins first thing in the morning when we wake up. Now, here is the anatomy of a habit. It's the ABC. That's the anatomy. First, you have to have an action, then you have to have a behavior, and C, you have to celebrate, right? But what happens is that in order for us to do a behavior, typically we need motivation, the ability to do the behavior, and something that prompts us to do the behavior, right? But now, if we combine these two concepts, if we start January 1st and we say, the behavior I want is to go to the gym, you're going to feel motivated probably the first couple weeks, but then as life happens or things get hard, you lose your motivation. So doing the behavior becomes very hard. So that's because you're relying on motivation.
Yeah.
So now the premise of tiny habits is that you will do a behavior, right? Still go to the gym or still, maybe get ready to work out, but you're not going to do it in a big way. You're going to do it in a small, manageable step that helps you become successful at doing that little tiny behavior and then celebrating that you did it. And then you start to create that habitual behavior. So the ABCs, for instance, is we need to have an existing period, right? That we have an action that is going to prompt us to remind us to do the new behavior. So in the mornings, every morning, one of the things that happens every morning when I wake up is I have to put my feet on the ground, right? That's a habit. I have to get out of bed.
Yeah.
So when I get out of bed, the first thing that I say to myself is, it's going to be a great day. And then I say, good job, Julie. You're starting the day off right. So that kind of gets me going with my mindset. And that is one of the first habits. And most tiny habit coaches, this is one of our favorite habits, and we call it the ohana, which is a Hawaiian term, but it's like positivity and having
Grateful.
that right mindset off to start your day.
Nice.
And that has been, really helpful because sometimes, we wake up and maybe we're thinking about things that we're worried about or we're not feeling well. But even if we're not feeling well or things are happening, reminding ourselves like it is going to be a great day, right? You're awake. Here you go. And you keep going. And that kind of little habits, what we talk about is that they're like plants. When you plant a tiny little habit, right? Then it starts to grow. And that's really what we want. Another one of the tiny habits that I use that has really helped me and it helps a lot of my clients is many entrepreneurs are very distracted. We're very going after the oh shiny. And as coaches, right, and entrepreneurs, we have all day. We can really decide how to structure our days. But we really need to have the right structure for us to stay consistent and do the things that we need to. one of the things that I teach my clients is that when they come to their desk in the morning, right? And that's your prompt. That's going to be the existing behavior. You're going to either open your computer or sit at your desk. So the first thing after I open my computer, the first thing that I do is I take a deep breath and then I look at my calendar. And then I celebrate. Good job, Julie. You looked at your calendar. What happens when I do that? I am not going to like check email for hours, or I'm not going to jump right into the, whatever work I need, or jump right into a call. I like to come in and open and look at my calendar, because then it reminds me, okay, this is what's happening today. And then I come up with that one thing that is the most important thing for my day, the thing that is going to move me forward, the thing that is consistent with the goals that I have for either the quarter or the month or the period of time, and really creating that consistent action and showing up consistently becomes that compounding effect that then creates results. Many individuals live or work by default. Also, a lot of individuals, especially I've seen this with some of my clients, if they have life going on and they don't feel like it, then they're like, oh, I don't feel like it. Or they will let somebody else's priority take precedence. And that's one of the things that really derails us. If we jump into email right away, then we're there answering emails and time goes by. And the next thing you know, oh my gosh, I didn't do that. And then we feel like a failure. And oh no, I can't believe I'll never get it. I didn't do that. And then we start spiraling. So it's important to really be able to set yourself up for success. And again, I am not saying organize your entire day. I'm not saying, do this whole big plan in the morning. All I am saying is start small, start tiny, something manageable, something that you will be able to do without much effort, and then will make you feel proud and will help you build that consistency.
Yes, that's very, very good advice. I love that. What would you say to when life happens and you actually do have a bad day?
Yeah. Well, bad days happen, to all of us. I think that there's so many different things that we cannot control. But what we can control is how we decide we're going to show up in the face of, right? There's so many times, for instance, that I've either been sick or things have happened in my personal life, but what I have to remind myself is that at every day, I either have the power to spiral down and to let my thoughts catastrophize or let myself get overwhelmed, or I can decide, what do I have control over? I think that a lot of times also we allow our brain to say, oh, Julie, you didn't do that right. You're terrible. Oh, you'll never be able to do that. Look at that person. They accomplished that and you haven't yet. These things really affect us. In positive intelligence, we call this having a judge, a master judge that judges ourselves and judges others and judges their circumstances. So when we judge, then we are now allowing ourselves to actually find the gifts, to find the things that, for instance, if something is, if maybe someone I love is sick, right? And I choose to then catastrophize, or to let my judge or other saboteuring thoughts go like, oh, what will that happen? You're living in the future. And then the work that you need to do for your business, for your life, is right here, right now. So think about, what can I do today that I can control? I can control how I show up in my schedule. I can control what I choose to work on. I can control how I work with my clients. I can control how I treat others. I can control maybe not focusing on the things that I cannot control, and just thinking like, what is the gift? And a lot of times, especially when we're struggling, it's difficult to think what is the gift in this situation. But the more that we practice at looking at the sage inside of each of us and saying, what is the gift in this situation? How can I show up differently? And asking that question, right? How can I, as opposed to, oh, I can't do that. ask yourself, how can I show up? What can I do today that even though I may not feel good or I may feel sad or all this is happening, I can still show up for myself in this day for my future as well. And those are the things that I typically do for myself, but also help my clients do.
That's very powerful. I love that. I do think so. My program is called Emotional Freedom. So for
Mhm.
me, what I teach is also like feel the what you need to feel.
Oh, absolutely. I think that
Like
that's the thing. People avoid
hmm
feeling
yes,
the things that they categorize. Oh, that's a bad feeling, or
right,
oh, that's. But if we look at feelings are not either good or bad,
right,
feelings are neutral. It
yes.
is the what we assign that circumstance to be. What if we are crying and we're depressed and we're like, oh, I'm so sad, I'm so depressed. That's a bad thing, right? Whereas you have the power to change how you are thinking about things.
hmm
And you can say, wow, I'm feeling sad. Let me kind of explore that. Why am I feeling that? What's going on? And then kind of unpacking it. And again, feeling the feels, it's important. And here's the other thing that people don't realize. We think that if I'm feeling angry, that's all I can feel. If I'm feeling sad, that's all I can feel. But we're human. And guess what? We can feel angry and happy at the same time, sadness and happy at the same time. And if we allow ourselves to explore the possibility that that can happen, then the better we are going to be at managing our emotions, but also overcoming things that don't serve us and moving forward.
Yeah, very, very true. I always teach people that we have this response because we are not evolved enough. And so
Mhm.
we're wired to see a string on the sidewalk and be like, oh my God, it's a snake, and then get
Right.
flight or freeze,
Hmm.
and then your day is ruined because you
Yeah.
have such a this discharge of adrenaline and
Hmm.
emotions. And so it's now the work is into just going back and being like, okay, that happened. It's okay. No, it was just
Yeah.
a string, and then move on and have a good day.
Yeah. And you know, one of the things that people don't realize, and I love to really be able to explore this, is we have over 60,000 thoughts a day. Okay. 80% of those thoughts, my friends, are going to be negative thoughts. So
Mhm.
understanding that we are, like you said, wired for negativity. We have a negativity bias. That's what has kept us alive as a species,
Correct.
is being afraid. So when you're feeling fear, it's part of the process and we need to normalize like, oh my God, I'm feeling afraid of that string. Oh, it's just a thing. Rather than, saying, oh no, like what, is there another snake? Or oh, I'm so dumb for thinking it was a snake when it's a string. Get
Yeah.
past that. Go
Yeah.
back and think another thought. What is a better thought? A lot of times that's
Rewrite
one of
the
the things
thought.
that I have to remind myself. Wow, what is a better thought, right?
Mhm.
And then that can help you also move forward. But again, be aware and don't get discouraged because you're having the negative thoughts. It's normal. Normalize that it's normal.
Exactly. Normalize that it's normal. I love that. That's amazing. And so what can you tell us about speaking at TEDx? Like that.
Yeah. Well, TEDx has always been something that again, for myself, I'm one of these high achievers, always have a list of goals. And for many years, I had that on my list of things that I wanted to do. And I wasn't sure how or when. And eventually in 2022, I went ahead and I applied to be a TEDx speaker. And I was very excited because it was going to be the TEDx here in Hartford, Connecticut, where I live. And I thought, great, I have a great idea what I want to talk about. And after applying, I received an email a couple months later that said, hey, thanks for your application. No, thank you. We don't want you to speak. And I was devastated. I thought, oh no. And of course, right, I started to spiral, like all the thoughts, I'm not good enough. I never measure up. I'll never do it. And I kind of like put my little dream off to the side.
Yeah.
And I kept kind of living my life but always knowing that maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe I'll never do it. And Eventually, beginning of 2023 rolled around. And of course, by the way, always writing my goals, that was one of the goals I had, but never re-explored it because of all the negativity that I was feeling toward it by being rejected.
Right.
So I then had a friend, and my friend and I are both coaches, and we were having a conversation. And he said, "Hey, um, you applied to TEDx last year, and you haven't since you got rejected. When are you going to apply again?" I'm like, "Oh, I don't know if I can. I don't know." He's like, "Well, you'll never be a TEDx speaker if you don't keep applying." And I thought,
Right.
"Oh, that makes sense." So I went ahead and I applied to the TEDx, to another TEDx talk, and I actually became a finalist. And when I became a finalist, I thought, oh, okay, that gave me a little boost of confidence. And then I applied to another one and again became a finalist. And it was the one here in Hartford for the following year. I went through the interview process, and they shared, we really love your idea. We think you're a great speaker, but it doesn't fit with our theme. You're proposing to talk about this, but this is what the event is about.
Right.
So it got me thinking, and this is at the same time I was applying for another TEDx opportunity. And as I thought about that, I realized that every TEDx has a theme, right?
Mhm.
Or no matter where it is, there's always a theme for the event. And what they want is their speakers to create their point of view or create their talk based on the theme, or to make it fit into the theme. So when I reapplied for the next TEDx, I didn't necessarily change what I was talking about. I was talking about habits and confidence, but I was talking about it as in relation to the theme of the event.
Right.
So I went ahead and applied. There were a lot of people that applied. Then we went through the second, the third, the fourth, and then eventually I was chosen. But it really came to realizing that their rejection is part of the process, and the rejections is what helped me figure out how to do it better, right, and get forward. But if I had just stayed in the a failure, I could never do it, I'm not good enough, then I would have never done it. And that's one of the things that a lot of people forget.
Yes, like failures are gems that
Yeah.
actually is feedback. It tells you where you need to work on, what you need to do better, what you need to
Hmm.
readapt to the situation, etc. So, yeah, I love that because
Yeah.
everyone feels like failure is just the end of it, but it's actually
Yeah,
the beginning.
failure is our teacher. The past is our teacher. In one of the, and by the way, just because this happened in the past doesn't mean that that past is your fortune teller, that that's what's going to happen in the future.
Right.
What you need to realize is, okay, let me get that experience, and how can I do it again, do it differently, do it better, and just go for, again, I'm going to say it again, a tiny habit of trying to show up 1% better every day.
Yes. What is one tiny habit that you have mastered that has given you something very successful?
So, one of the tiny habits that I do have is definitely, believe it or not, is drinking my water every day.
Yeah.
I think that it's so simple, and people would typically say, "Well, how does that make you successful? Does that make you money?" Yeah, it does, because when I am helping my body feel good, then I'm showing up 100% for people. Then I feel clarity. I don't feel drained, and that water, the fact that I committed, right, to being a person that drinks X amount of water to feel good, the fact that I do it and do it consistently and do it successfully gives me the confidence and then show up in other areas of my life. If I did that and I'm already successful at filling my water bottle and drinking some water, then there's nothing that I can't do. So don't think that, the habit necessarily needs to be like, "Oh my God, I'm going to run every day. I'm going to, write a speech every day, or I'm going to write 10,000 words for my next book." That's not, those are great things and can definitely, help you succeed, but showing up in a small way and then creating some success for yourself so that then everything else you do is based on the fact that you're already successful. You're going to find that you have more traction in your life.
I love that. Yeah, there is data that actually says that when you do all your checks all
Hmm.
day, like yeah, the water, little things,
Hmm.
very little things, and you do the check, that just gives you hormonal
Yeah,
discharge of like dopamine and happiness
absolutely.
and all this. And it's so important to do that because people think that success comes from working 24/7 and not having
No,
rest and you don't have time to eat, you don't have time to do anything.
no,
You
no.
can
And I will tell you, I am my calendar. I am the queen of that calendar.
do.
I schedule time, right? And by the way, this is not perfect, but it's something that I strive for. I set times. I don't work after certain times. I always have X amount of time blocked off for lunch. I make sure that, I am creating this intentional margin for myself. And the thing is, that whole check mark, and you don't have to do the check marks if you're not into checking, but what you're actually doing is acknowledging that you did something. And that's what Dr. BJ Fogg says
Mm,
creates the habit. It's not the consistency of doing it 21 days, 66 days, or whatever amount of time. A habit is established in however many days is going to take. But what makes you create the habit is celebrating that you did the thing. So
yeah,
if you celebrate, you're creating that dopamine, that good feeling, and then your brain's like, oh, I love feeling good. Let me do that again. And then that's how you create the habit.
correct. And what would you say with people that get very strict and then there's no flexibility and then they're super hard on themselves because they didn't do
Yeah.
what they were supposed to do?
Yeah, you know what? Those are the things, those are the people. And by the way, I am one of these people at
Me too.
times, and it's not like I don't have those tendencies. But I become aware, right? I have, like I talked about the judge judging myself. The judge is like, oh, Julie, you're not good enough. Oh, Julie, you'll never do it. Or look at that person is doing it so much better than you are. Or whatever it is that we tell ourselves. When my judge shows up, I typically will say, oh, there's my judge again. And then I ask myself, is that real when it's telling me you'll never do it? And then I go back and I say, well, I never thought I'd get into TEDx, and I did. I always wanted to write a book, and I never thought I could write it. And here it is. I have a book that not only hit number one, but is an award-winning book, right? So these are the things that when your sabotaging voice is saying something to you, just remember that these voices that are telling you you'll never do it, you're not enough, are the lies that keep us from actually doing the work,
Yeah,
from actually showing up, from seeing the gifts, from seeing the good. So when you're feeling like I'm not good enough, go back and find your gifts. Go find the things that maybe you are good at. Maybe you were trying to get a client today and you spoke to them and the client said, "No, not really. I don't want to work with you." Then go back and say, because you're going to say, oh, I'll never get a client. But then if you go back and you think, oh, wait a minute, I worked with this person, I helped them, look at the progress this person is making. That's going to kind of rewrite the story. And it's going to remind you that, you know what? Yes, not everybody is ready. Not everybody wants to. Not everybody can. But the people that can are the people that I can focus on and continue. And then, by the way, maybe next time I will do something different when I speak to a client. Maybe I will approach it a different way. Maybe I'll do this or say that. So, really, letting your experiences not be the ones that define you as a failure, but letting your experiences be the ones that define you and teach you how to do it differently so that you can do it even 1% better the next day.
very true. Very, very good. I love that answer. I also work on the inner critic and like
Mhm.
rewriting it and the limiting
Yeah.
beliefs and all these things that are actually we're our own worst enemy.
Absolutely. Oh gosh, yeah. If we treated people the way we treat our inner critic at times, or our inner critic treats us, we wouldn't have any friends. But it's what we do to ourselves. We are the harshest ever.
I know, but here we are. We're two
That's right.
people that already help you rewrite that and be better because
Yeah.
It's crazy how that affects you. But yes, I love that. And congratulations, of course,
Yeah.
your TEDx and your book
Thank you.
and all
Well,
that.
again, it's easy to say, "Oh God, I did that." But yeah, give yourself credit and celebrate that you did those things
Of course.
because there's things that I still want to do, and you or one of your listeners may be doing it better. And the goal is not to compare yourself to others, but to be able to say, "Okay, well, how do I get there? How do I do that? And how do I do it my way, not necessarily somebody else's way?"
Correct. Very powerful. Love that. So what would you say is just one skill or one tool that you could share to our audience on how to go from surviving to thriving?
Mm. Um, Awareness, and I think that that may be, not everybody meditates or is, some people call it prayer, some people call just being quiet, but I want to encourage you to take a step back and maybe before you jump into your next project or before you have that conversation, take a minute, take a deep breath, a couple deep breaths, and ask yourself, what am I thinking? What am I feeling? What do I want to accomplish with this next task? How do I want to show up? And really, one of the things that has helped me is having that intentionality, right? Because we're all going to be stressed. But also in these times that I need to figure out how to show up, I also ask myself if I am already the best selling author, if I am already the successful coach, if I am already the podcaster that has tons of listeners, right? What does that person do to do that, right? And reconstruct it. Do the backwards reconstructing. So if I'm a successful author, then that means that I had to write a book. And then I had to really hone in my skills. So what does it take? Think about, take a breath, take a moment and ask, I'm in this spot. What is next for me? And yeah, go ahead and keep working at being a work in progress.
Love that. That is such a unique advice that we've never had in this podcast before. So thank you so much. And
You're
thank you so
welcome.
much for sharing everything. It was very, very nice and very, very helpful. And I'm sure that everyone here is going to be like, oh, yeah, I need that. So I'm going to put all of her handles in the description. And yeah, I'm very, very grateful for your knowledge. And again, congratulations for all your.
Well, thank you so much. And if your listeners are questioning, what are the things that sabotage me? I have a quiz and it's on the links that you have, but it's goconfidentlycoaching.com/quick links. And you will find the quiz and other resources there.
Awesome. Oh, I'm gonna do that one.
Yeah, go figure it out. It's really fun to see that. And then you'll get some tips on how to overcome those sabotaging behaviors.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much again for being here.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for having me. And don't forget, everybody, go confidently in the direction of your dreams.
There you go.